I'd like to welcome everybody to the Smithtown Planning Board meeting for this date. Before we proceed with this evening's agenda, I'd like to ask that you all please rise and join us in saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. The chair recognizes Planner Matthew Collado for reading of the items to be adjourned for recess this evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Board. The Planning Department would like to recommend the following items be recessed because the applicants are not ready to be heard at this time. Under zoning petitions, number 1, 2012-04, Storybook Homes Nesconset. Number 2, 2012-02, Carlson Associates Kings Park. Number 3, 2010-06, KBC Holdings. Under waiver requests, number 4, number 773, Scholar Estates Comac. Number 5, number 1135, Tuami Platte St. James. Number 6, number 911A, Glenhill Northern St. James. Under final subdivision, number 7, number 1156, map of Open Meadow, Fort Salonga. And under amendment of conditional approval, 8, a 280A application, second map of San Remo.
Is there anyone present who wishes to be heard on these items that are recommended to be recessed? There being none, is there a motion to recess the items as read?
Motion to recess items 1 through 8 as read.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The items are recessed. The first item to be heard this evening is an amendment of a filed map for Harbor Trees, Section 2, Kings Park. I'm aware that we're still awaiting SEQA.
Yes.
Okay. Is the applicant or his representative here? We are unable to hear this case this evening. Do you have an affidavit of posting? And could you please inform the board as to who posted these signs?
I am my father's myself.
Sir, these, burying a sign in the woods where the residents cannot read it is not only an affront to this process, but to the people who live in the neighborhood and will therefore be unable to know of your application.
We apologize. I was under the information that it was supposed to be 10 feet behind the property line.
This appears to be more than 10 feet. Mr. Unverzagt was there this afternoon and took these photos. I suggest you do this over, because this property has a long history of missteps, mistakes, oversights, and this board is not going to hear this until you adhere to the proper procedures.
Okay.
Would you please just give your name and address for the record?
My name?
Can you go to the microphone, because
Yes,
it's all
please.
being recorded.
Sure.
Thank you.
My name is... Hello? My name is Sabatino Ainapoli. This is my father, Pasquale Ainapoli. Our permanent address is 867 Maloon Avenue, Franklin Square, New York, 11010.
Okay. As I had mentioned, we're still awaiting the SEQA. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this to the June 14th meeting of the Planning Board to give the Department of Environment and Waterways adequate time to complete the environmental report. I'll make a motion to recess the public hearing to June 14th. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. To table the resolution, same motion and same second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Both items are set for the June 14th calendar.
Conrad, should he move the signs that they can take pictures by the next time?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a very active board. We go out and we check these properties. So we're just not making these decisions here in the
I'll
abstract.
measure it out. So it is 10 feet behind the...
So people can read the sign.
Yes.
That's the whole objective to the whole thing.
Thank you.
Just want to give everybody an opportunity for notice, that's all.
You can
Thank
use
you.
a stake. You can, put a stake in the ground and put the sign on top of stakes instead of using a tree if the tree's too far back.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Next item on the agenda, extension of final approval for a map of bridal court in Fort Salonga.
The applicant is requesting a 6-month extension of the conditional final approval for the subdivision known as number 1147 map of Bridal Court. The final map of number 1147 map of Bridal Court was granted conditional final approval by the planning board on November 2nd, 2016. This conditional final plat approval was valid for a period of 180 days that will expire on May 2nd, 2017. The applicant is requesting a 6-month extension. The planning department has reviewed the request and has no objection to a 6-month extension of the conditional final approval. The planning department offers the following resolution for the board's consideration. Planning board resolution number blank 2017, extension of conditional final approval, number 1147, map of Bridal Court. Whereas the planning board has considered the request to extend the conditional final approval for number 1147, map of Bridal Court. Now therefore be it first resolved that the planning board hereby grants a 6-month extension of the time to the conditional final approval for the subdivision known as number 1147, map of Bridal Court, beginning May 2nd, 2017 through November 2nd, 2017.
Is the applicant or its representative present here this evening?
I am. Vincent J. Tremarco, 1038 West Jericho Turnpike, Smithtown, New York, for the applicant. We'd ask the board to go along with the planning department's recommendation for the extension. I've submitted the affidavit of posting and mailing to Mr. Colato.
Okay, thank you. Any members of the board have any questions on this matter? Is there any members of the public who wish to be heard on this application? There being none, is there a motion to grant the extension?
First, in the matter of number 1147, map of Bridal Court, I move that we close the hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The hearing's closed.
And in the matter of Planning Board Resolution number blank 2017, extension of conditional final approval for number 1147, map of Bridal Court, I move that we adopt the resolution as read in accordance with the recommendation of the Planning Department.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Extension is granted.
Thank you.
Hey,
You might as well stay up here. I think you're going to call the next one, right?
you have the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. Next one on the agenda is the zoning petition for Browns Road, parcel located at Browns Road and 347 in Wisconsin.
The number one, the reason for the report, the planning board will conduct a public hearing on May 3rd, 2017 to consider the above referenced petition to change the zoning map. The petitioner requests a change of zone from R15 to WSI. 2, the petitioners Browns and 347 LLC, 27 Foxhurst Road, Dix Hills, New York, 11746. 3, the site, the lot area is 2.7 acres. The shape is irregular. Road frontage has 407 feet along Browns Road and 485 feet of frontage along Smithtown Bypass. Topography is flat with elevation ranging from 115 feet to 118 feet above sea level. The groundwater depth is approximately 45 feet below grade, and the site is not near any wetlands or flood zones. The nearest surface water is a recharge basin is located 125 feet east of the subject property. For the zoning, the site is zoned R15, single-family residence, 15,000 square feet minimum lot area. To the north is R6 and R15. Those are townhouses and single-family residences, 15,000 square feet. To the south is RMGA, which is garden apartments, and R21. Single-family residences, 21,780 square feet minimum lot area. To the east is R15, which is single-family residences, and west is R15. 5, the land use, the site is single-family residence. To the north is single-family residences and a condominium. Condominiums across Brown Road. South is garden apartments across Smithtown Bypass. East is single-family residences and a recharge basin across Browns Road. West is Profero Town Park, a single-family residence. 6, the zoning history. In 1932, it was zoned D, residential, 11 families per acre. In 1955, it was zoned B1, which is single-family residence, 15,000 square feet. And in 1964, it was zoned R15, which is single-family residence, 15,000 square feet. Number 7, the proposal is to demolish an existing one-family dwelling to construct a 2,190 square foot counter-service restaurant with a drive-through, and to construct a 12,450 square foot office building. 8, planning considerations. The proposed WSI zoning is not consistent with the 1961 Town Comprehensive Plan, which depicts the subject lot and surrounding area to be used for medium-density residence and parks. The comprehensive plan locates WSI zoning along the Middle Country Road, Jericho Turnpike corridor. The proposal does not conform with the draft update of the comprehensive plan. Although the town board has not yet decided whether to adopt an update, it nevertheless is a product of a comprehensive analysis of the town's needs, constraints, and trends. The draft designates the land use at the corner of Browns Road and Route 347 for recreation and open space and recommends open space acquisition to prevent future development. The draft plan also states, encourage existing commercial uses to relocate and prohibit additional commercial development on the bypass. The property is suitable for residential development. The terrain is flat, has road frontage, does not contain environmentally sensitive land, and is currently used for a residence. Under the existing zoning, the subject site could be subdivided for lots backing up to the bypass. The surrounding area fronting the bypass is developed for residents, and the neighborhoods are not adversely affected by the bypass. According to the draft land use inventory and analysis in the update, 13 out of the 163 acres, 18%, of WSI zone land in Wisconsin are vacant. Townwide, there is a similar ratio with 32 out of 404 acres vacant. Increasing the amount of WSI zone land would be detrimental to the owners of the WSI and other commercially zoned land in the locale. The proposal is not consistent with the prevailing land use in close proximity to the site. The site is adjacent to a single-family home, and across Browns Road are two cul-de-sacs containing 17 homes. The opposite side of the bypass also contains residential uses. 9. Referral to the Suffolk County Planning Commission. Pursuant to Section 239M of New York State General Municipal Law, this application was referred to the Suffolk County Planning Commission because the site is less than 500 feet from a state highway, State Route 347. The Suffolk County Planning Commission considers the rezoning to be a matter of local determination. Number 10, the recommendation. The Planning Department offers the following resolution for the board's consideration. Planning Board Resolution Number blank 2017, recommendation for zone change petition 2017-01 Browns and 347 LLC. Whereas the Planning Board has considered the petition of Browns and 347 LLC to change the zone of Suffolk County Tax Map Number 114-5-48 from R15 to WSI and has found that 1. The proposal does not conform with the comprehensive plan, which designates the optimal use of the 347 corridor as single-family residential use. 2. The subject property is suitable for residential use as evidenced by the large number of nearby properties that are used for residences. 3. The proposed use is not consistent with the prevailing surrounding land use. 4. It appears that there is sufficient land zone WSI available to meet the present and future needs of the community. And 5, rezoning the subject property may set an undesirable precedent. Now therefore be it first resolved that the Planning Board hereby recommends that the Town Board deny the petition of Browns and 347 LLC to change the zone of Suffolk County Tax Map Number 114-5-48 from R15 to WSI for the reasons presented in the Planning Director's memorandum dated April 28, 2017.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. I've submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing to Mr. Flynn. Briefly, the property, as is indicated in the Planning Advisory Report, is about 2.7 acres. There's 407 feet on Browns Road and 485 feet on Smithtown Bypass, or it's commonly known as Route 347. Also, as indicated in the report, there are no wetlands and there's no groundwater problem, as depth of groundwater is at least 45 feet. There is a recharge basin about 125 feet east of the subject property. And as is indicated, the zoning is now R15, and it's been R15 for many, many years. As we all know, R15 is single-family residence on approximately a third of an acre. The Planning Department says the application is not consistent with the 1961 master plan. That master plan was created approximately 60 years ago. It is not consistent. What it's not consistent with is the present times and today. The bypass or again, it's called 347, was built by the county in the late 50s. It became such a busy thoroughfare that the state took it over, I think, in about 1966. Now, planning refers to the draft master plan. Well, the draft master plan, as they indicated, as Mr. Flynn indicates in the report, it is just that, a draft master plan. It hasn't been approved by the town, and that master plan was about 15 or 20 years in coming. I'm not sure that it's all completed, but even so, it's a draft. The town board hasn't adopted it, so to refer to something that really isn't something that the town has agreed to or adopted really doesn't make much sense. I agree that it's the planning department's opinion, but that's all it is the planning department's opinion. It also suggests that part of this draft master plan suggests that this property and properties like it be used for recreation and open space, and recommends the town acquire it. We all know that the town has other more important things to do than to buy recreational property when there's a ball field and a park right behind the subject site. So, bearing that in this board's consideration, as the board well knows, it is required to make a recommendation to the town board. You've read that report. Now, we have a certain amount of comments that myself and Steve Cataldo would make towards this application. The planning department in its recommendation said the lot should back up to the bypass. When Steve Cataldo gets up, he'll explain that at best there's 4 lots, 2 of them to back up to the bypass. If this was feasible and a use that was reasonable, then let's really think about this. Why would the state be spending millions and millions of dollars erecting these giant walls so as to control sound and visual pollution? All of those residents that happen to have bought on 347 many years ago, as we progressed over the years from 1960 to 2017, traffic greatly increased, more trucks, more cars. It truly is a bypass, so the amount of traffic that goes by there since the report was written in 1961, the master plan, it's greatly changed. So I think the board should try and recognize that and think about what's actually there today. We go along 347, and there are these, again, giant masonry walls. I think they range from 15 to 20 feet in height. Some people say they're really nice, other people say they're ugly. The one thing is for sure, the state, in widening the road, felt an obligation, a severe obligation, to protect those residents who live along 347 so as their quality of life will not change drastically. Let's face it, it changes no matter what. You look at those walls and that's your backyard fence. So it's not a happy thing for those people. Most of those houses were built years ago. There's only one subdivision, which I believe was built 10 or 15 years ago, and that's immediately to the east across Browns Road. Now, that subdivision has very nice, beautiful houses, but except for one, it's backed up between the rear of the houses and 347 is a state sump. And in the report by the planning department, it says it's about 125 feet east of the subject site. So that subdivision was artfully created so it would have the least impact on the people who eventually would buy those houses. Now, the subject property, as is disclosed in the mandatory disclosure that the board has, is owned by the Hornberger family. And as you all know, Storybook Homes, Al Hornberger and his two sons, Doug, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the other fellow's name. They all work with their dad, and they've built probably in the last 40 or 50 years 1,000 or so residential homes. Why didn't Storybook Homes develop this property for residential purposes? Well, I got a good guess. The guess is they didn't feel it was feasible under the circumstances and didn't want to be in a situation where they built two houses of the four that would be ultimately permitted to back up against 347. And by the time those houses would be built, the state would be long past going east in building those giant walls. So there's a reason for the non-development of this piece of property. Another thing that I'd like the board to consider, many of the homes that are on 347, older residential homes, are not really used as residences. They're offices, they're medical uses, some of them used legally, some of them used illegally. And why is that? Because the noise is so tremendous that to live on 347 and live a normal life, especially if you have children, is next to being impossible. The requirement or the recommendation of the planning department seems to be a little out of touch with what's really happening today and what's happening with Route 347. I mean, again, it's obvious that they're doing major work on 347. Why are they doing that? To make traffic move more easily. This is not the bucolic 347 that was constructed in 1955 or 56 and ultimately taken over by the state. It's a major highway. You can't call it anything else but a major highway. And why should we be required to build one-family dwellings on a major highway? So some of the reasons that the planning department says are reasons for you to recommend denial to the town board is, well, first of all, the comprehensive plan sets the area for single-family residence. Well, I'm asking the board to remember that the comprehensive plan was adopted in 1961, almost 60 years ago. And we all know that things have drastically changed since that time, as evidenced by the fact that the state, is redoing the roads, not only redoing the roads, but has a concern about those people, the residences that live along there, and that's why they're building those giant walls wherever they can and wherever it's practical to protect those homeowners who are subjected to this major traffic. They say the land is suitable for residential use, they meaning the planning department, as is evident by the large number of similar nearby properties that are used for residents. Most of those nearby properties used for residential purposes were built years and years ago, except for that one subdivision that I'm referring to.
Please allow the speaker to speak uninterrupted. Everyone will have a chance and will be accorded the same courtesy. Mr. Tramarko, please continue.
Thank you. As I indicated, that one subdivision that's directly across Browns Road was built approximately 10 or 15 years ago. However, that subdivision is basically protected by a New York State sump that stands in between 347 and the residential subdivision. It's the third reason that the planning board espouses is it is not consistent with the prevailing land use nearby. Of course it's not. Everything was done years ago. Things have changed. To require us not, or to recommend to the town board to keep this as residentially zoned property is basically a taking. It will not allow reasonable use of the property and reasonable development. One of the other things that I think we should all consider is that if the town board, based upon your recommendation, grants this application, an office building and a counter-service restaurant will be built. The taxes that will come from that amount of land use will be far greater than the four houses that would be built there if the town board doesn't permit the change of zone. Not only that, but commercial businesses don't put a tax, or it doesn't tax the use of our schools. So all in all, it seems to be a great application. Also, most of that property that we're asking to change is bordered in the rear by a park, by a baseball field. There are one or maybe two houses that do touch the subject property. Also, the applicants, the owner, the Hornberger family, has in their application agreed to donate about 8,000 square feet of their property in the rear to the town for parking, for the use by the town for parking, or really whatever they want to use it for. And if you think about it, a lot of that parking right now for the Browns Road facility not only is on the park side, but you have to walk across Browns Road for additional parking, which certainly is not a safe situation. The final thing that planning talks about is there is sufficient land zone WSI to meet the present and future needs of the community. Well, that's only one possible reason that a board would recommend denial. The other reason, and I think very much more cogent, is the fact that residential R15 or R21 or R43 just doesn't go there anymore. It is really, when thought about it, it would be a taking to require the property to remain zoned residential. So we ask the board, in considering the recommendations of the planning department, and also to consider what we say here tonight. And The final thing that planning says is the rezoning may set an undesirable precedent. Well, maybe it is not so undesirable. Maybe the zoning in that area is so outdated and so based upon a whole different era that now we have to be reasonable and think about what's best for the community, what's best for the developer. This piece of property is so uniquely situated, it would have no adverse effect on the surrounding homeowners, given the fact that there's a baseball field and a park, and gee, I didn't know it was that funny. And so that rezoning the land, whether you consider it to be an undesirable, whether the planning department considers it to be an undesirable precedent, we don't think it does. And the planning department should really think about what would be best for everybody in the area and what goes with respect to uses on the bypass. With that, I'd like to call Steve Cataldo. He's the architect for the project, just to bring out a few points with respect to the technical aspects.
Okay, Mr. Cataldo, please come forward and give your name and address affiliation for the record.
Steve Cataldo.
Please go to the microphone.
Use the microphone, please.
Go ahead, let me get out of the way.
Stephen Cataldo. I am the architect for the applicant, 14 Carl Avenue, Smithtown, New York. Just a couple of comments about the project and the planning advisory report. As Mr. Tremarco said, the property is unique. The property is bound by 347 Browns Road and the baseball fields to the north. It makes it just a very unique piece of property. I don't think, based upon our research, there's not another piece of property like it. When you look at it setting a precedent, I challenge someone to find another piece that would be like this one. I don't think you're going to find it. With respect to the report, excuse me. As was referenced, the 1961 Town Comprehensive Plan depicts the subject lot surrounding area to be used for medium-density residence. A medium-density residence, as defined by the zoning ordinance, really wouldn't be permitted here. You need too much property for that. So you're talking about 5 acres, 10 acres, whatever. There's only one category in the zoning ordinance, that's RMGA, that would require a 2-acre property. This is about 2.5. But when you look at the Suffolk County Health Department regulations, you'd need to put a sewage treatment plant in, and this property would, there's no way this property would support a sewage treatment plant and the development. So as a practical matter, medium-density residential development is not a consideration. And I think that's just a function of the fact that the comprehensive plan, as developed in 1961, didn't really have to take into consideration the sewage treatment plant aspect. The density rules, as promulgated by the Suffolk County Health Department, didn't really come into play until 1960. So when you look at the recommendations or the requirements as set forth in that 1961 comprehensive plan, there are aspects to that because of its age that simply do not permit the property to be developed in a way perhaps that they anticipated at that time. The only other thing that that 61 plan talked about was parks. So if you're talking about the town of Smithtown would have to buy the property and develop it as a park, perhaps as an expansion of the ball fields or whatever, that seems an unlikely scenario. So the 1961 comprehensive plan essentially doesn't speak to this property as it exists today. Another comment in the report deals with WSI zoning and states that the 1961 comprehensive plan called for WSI zoning along Middle Country Road, Jericho and Turnpike. There's a vast amount of WSI currently along 347. If you drive east from Smithtown Boulevard, namely the Watermill, there's a lot of WSI property. So the comprehensive plan hasn't really been followed all that closely, even if you want to look at that aspect of it. And then we talk about the draft that has not been accepted yet by the town board. Calls for recreation, open space. Again, the town would have to buy the property and use it for that purpose. Seems very unlikely. Also, we have a comment about property on the bypass being developed for single-family dwellings. I would echo the remarks of Mr. Tramarko relative to the construction of all the walls. Why do we have these massive walls on 347 to protect all of the homes there? It seems prudent that, why would you design that? Why would you do something that would require some massive buffering, whether it be walls or giant hills or 50-foot trees or whatever you're going to do? Why would you plan that into your program here? Why not put something there that is going to be compatible with the highway? And we believe that's what this application represents. Compatibility with the times, compatibility with the road as it exists today. We feel it would be a much better use of this property as opposed to putting some single-family dwellings there, which, I mean, who among us wants to live on 347? I don't think anybody does. Why would you want to do that? We also talk about the proposal not being consistent with prevailing land use. The word close proximity to the site. The land use along 347 is admittedly varied. There's commercial uses, there are residential uses that back up to it. That is definitely in existence. But I don't think it's a good idea to continue something that is inappropriate, namely the residential use. If there are any questions about the plan, I can answer them for
Before
you.
we proceed to hearing from the public, does any members of the board have any questions, comments? And then I will let Mr. Flynn address any points that he feels might be appropriate.
I got a couple. You mentioned about the intersection where the Watermill is having some commercial development. But isn't it true that all the intersections between this intersection and that intersection are void of commercial development?
No.
I think you have to go all the way to that intersection before you get...
Southern Boulevard has, as a matter of fact, it's continuous. It's continuous from Smithtown Boulevard, I believe, all the way to Smithtown Boulevard has, I think, solid commercial
I
development.
think if you go west on the bypass from this intersection, the next two intersections, there's no commercial
Oh,
development.
okay, I thought you meant from the
No,
Watermill
talking about
east.
along the bypass west of here. I think they're both,
Right, you got the
all the...
country homes
I
back
said,
there.
until you get to where the Watermill is, all the other intersections are void of commercial development, I think.
Southern.
Southern has a gas station and the public storage, correct?
Right. And I think there's a Taco Bell across the street.
Correct.
And there's a Dunkin' Donuts a little further down.
On the right-hand side.
Yeah.
I think what you're referring to, I think that immediately west of the site is residential.
That's what I'm
Right?
saying.
Yeah, that is correct.
And also, there's the orange building and the blue building. I presume the orange building is the proposed counter service,
Correct,
and the blue building is the proposed office building,
correct.
and the counter service building is supposed to be about 2,100 square feet.
Almost 22.
So are those in scale compared to each other?
Yes.
So then, that means that that blue building is going to be 3 stories high?
No, the blue building is a two-story office building, approximately 6,200 square feet on each floor.
So it's 2 stories.
Correct.
Any other questions? I just have a question for Director Flynn, or at least 2 of them. What, as far as vacancy rates go for commercial buildings, what, can you elucidate as to what that is as compared to residential vacancies?
I would have to check into that, excuse me, and get back to you. We've done studies on commercial vacancies, but we haven't done residential.
But it's my understanding from reading the proposed comprehensive plan, which is, I believe, near adoption, that the commercial vacancy rates are higher.
Oh, definitely, sure.
So-
Right, yeah, there's been a demand for probably the past 20 years that residential has been much higher than commercial. And from what everyone seems to be saying in the region, that trend will continue.
Okay, and approximately, what's the percentage of residential properties along 347 in the town?
About 72% of the frontage is residential.
Okay,
I
And-
have one other thing for you,
I'm sorry.
I have one other question. But if anybody can answer it, we talk about the state with the wall. Does anybody know whether the state plans for the wall call for putting the wall along 347 adjacent to this property?
As far as we know, the wall will not be constructed in front of the property.
And what is that based on?
Conversations with DOT.
Can you validate that? How do we know that's
Excuse me.
Whoa, only gonna do from the mic, okay? It's not gonna be a public hearing, only at the mic, please.
Any other
If
comments?
you have questions or comments in the
Questions from the
public, you can
board?
come up
Yeah,
afterwards and
we got
ask
all
them.
night.
We do have all evening.
That part is true.
I do have
Mr. Sorby?
just a statement that, in other words, if it becomes just residential, then the state will put the wall up.
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
But the walls are basically in residential, along
It
residential
appears just
properties.
from driving up and down there that they've constructed the walls to protect the homeowners.
Okay.
Right.
Any more questions from the board?
So if this were to be built, then obviously the wall would not go in front of here, and then the residents would not be protected.
I think it's pretty safe to assume that by the time this issue is resolved in its entirety, DOT would be way past this location. I don't know if they'd be willing to come back and then, fill in the blanks, so to speak. I just don't know.
So the DOT actually made that statement that they will not construct that wall while this is in the
They just said they
plans?
weren't planning to put the wall there.
At all? They weren't doing,
They just said they weren't going to do it. I don't know if we went back to, or someone went back to them and said, hey, can you put the wall there? They might say yes, I don't know.
so any land that is in the middle of some, other planning.
It
Right.
might just be that because this is a wooded area with ball fields, that they didn't feel the need to protect it. I don't really know their rationale, but they have indicated to us that they weren't planning to put the wall there. Frankly, it would be a big impediment for the application if they did.
And if this doesn't go through, as we B4, this is 4 parcels, subdividable to for 4 homes?
I'm not sure. The 4 or 5, I'm not sure. It's 2.7 acres, I think, or 2.3?
About 2.7.
2.7. Yeah, it'd be about 4 or 5.
We did a quick yield plan. We figured it'd be 4 homes because the Suffolk County Health Department requires 20,000 square feet per lot. The R15 zoning requires only 15,000, so we'd have to comply with them, and it would end up being 4 lots.
But right now, as it stands, we're residential on all 4 corners of Browns Road with this parcel. So then,
Correct. I think the one across the street is multifamily.
well, yeah, but, residential in essence.
Right.
And the commercial corridor that we have, looks like it goes from right southern to, I guess it could go to Route 111.
More or less. There is some residential in that.
Right. So this would be a spot, basically like a spot commercial build.
it would be unique.
Mr. Marchese, question?
Anywhere there is residential, they do put the wall up. So if we put 4 homes there, they're gonna then put the walls up. That's how I'm gonna go with. Okay,
I don't know.
I feel like comfortable with
I don't
that.
know why they would treat those people any differently than all
Exactly,
the other
that's
homes.
how I feel. Thank you.
Could I just
Of course.
add something? Just from a clarification standpoint, the comprehensive plan, the existing one, when they say medium-density residence, what they really mean is R15 and R21 zoning. Low-density residence is R43, and high-density is R10 and RM7, and then multifamily with things like RMGA and RC. So I think if Mr. Cataldo knew that, he'd probably change his conclusion about the health department not permitting medium-density residence.
Do you think that they might approve it
Well,
if it
yeah,
was?
yeah, I think they kind of have to approve it. That's, they allow 2 families per acre. Medium-density residence is 2 families per acre.
So you get 4 homes in, okay, true.
It's semantics. We couldn't put in any of those zones that I alluded to. If the comprehensive plan viewed R15 as medium density, so be it. We just don't think that single-family dwellings in this particular location is appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, we'll now ask if anybody who wishes to be heard, please come forward. Please give your name and address for the record. We have a stenographer.
Just one
so-
at a time and just orderly fashion will be great.
And please stay at the microphone because everything's being recorded.
My name is Cynthia Davis, and I live in the area that, oh, I'm sorry, I have to give you the address. 70 Tiffany Court South. I'm in the Country Point development. Just to say that one of the biggest things that I enjoy being there is that we do have a park across the street. I have 2 grandchildren that enjoy that quite often. To have an office building and a commercial property on that corner would be detrimental to them. It would create more traffic. You talk about needing properties. We have a property right down the road on 347 going east that has been vacant for quite some time. I think it's called 6th Avenue Electronics, and Fortunoff's was in there at one time. If you want to talk about unique properties, I mean, there's a nice piece of property to be developed that would not be just sitting there and collecting weeds. We do have a sewage plant in the neighborhood. That would not be necessary to do. And what was my other? We do have many more commercial properties, and we don't need any more. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Karen Casarini. I live at 34 Tiffany Court in Wisconsin. I would like to state
spell
that
your last name
Oh,
for-
Cassarini. I'd like to state that I'm a lifetime resident, homeowner, and taxpayer of Smithtown. It has been my experience that our residentially zoned properties are protected by the town, and for that, I thank you all. It's been my experience. Respectfully, I would like to oppose Mr. Tremarco's claim that the laws are from 1961 and that they're so archaic, it's impossible, because on the other side of Browns Road, there's a brand-new block of gorgeous luxury homes, and right next door are the gorgeous luxury Country Point homes. So to say that this is an archaic proposition to have residential zoning there is simply an archaic thought, because it's not true. There are no, he also spoke about illegal homes being used for businesses on the road. That's not true. As Cindy stated, there are 2 huge, ugly, empty commercial properties just east of their proposed site that are such an eyesore. To simply state that they would get tax revenue for commercial property would mean that we may as well just knock down all the homes in Smithtown and let's just make it all commercial buildings. We'll make it like Hop Hog Industrial Park. Great idea. There also, as this gentleman stated, there is a shortage of homes in Smithtown. I just went through the process of selling my home and trying to buy a home, and it was really hard. There's very few places to live. As a matter of fact, they want to knock down a home where people are living to do this plan. So there are people living in a home, and they want to knock it down, so that'll mean more homeless people. They claim that they can't build on it, but yet they have all these fancy buildings stretched out by the architect. There's a children's ball field there. A zoning change would impose their public safety. There is a bus stop there, and that would also present more sacrifices to public safety of the community's children. I have photos on my cell phone if anyone wants to see the ugly commercial property just east of where they're proposing to build. It's been vacant for many, many years. There are 2 buildings there. There are already 2 Dunkin' Donuts. One is a 1/4 mile away, and one is 3/4 of a mile away. I don't think we need another one. The importance of this area remaining residential is a matter of life and death, as recently a local Browns Road pedestrian lost their precious life there. This is a grave elevation to public safety. We do not need the traffic there. Somebody just lost their life there. We don't need cars zooming in and out of it. It's a residential community, and it isn't from 1961. In this century, we've built residents there. The Nesconset Fire Department is also at the intersection of Browns Road and Lake Avenue. This zone change would impose a danger to our local residents because new traffic would impede the fire department from reaching the local residents there. In conclusion, do not allow the zone change in pursuant to the 1961 Comprehensive Residential Plan, as it will have a negative financial and especially a public safety impact to local residents. And I thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jeannie Greenfield, Greenfield, and I live at 2 Premier Court, Nesconset, in the subdivision across from the parkland. First, in due respect, I want to apologize. I'm not proficient at any of the residential zoning laws as far as, you know, distance and whatnot. But I would like to reflect back on your verbiage where you said that your plan is very solid in regard to what these community members have stated. There are numerous commercial vacancies along Route 347, and we all well know how extreme the drug epidemic is in Smithtown right now. So we don't need any more empty buildings, especially next to a park where children are, for young adolescents and children to hang out dealing in drugs. It's too close to where our children were. You speak of the uniqueness of the land that it is. If it's so unique, I absolutely see potential for it to expand into parkland or something greater for the recreational area that's over there. And then last, this young lady just spoke of the detriment to the traffic area. I would love to see the traffic studies. I've been living there for 17 years. There's been numerous accidents at that intersection. This is sort of simulated towards the area over by Old Town Road where there's a Dunkin' Donuts and you merge out of the elderly, the division of apartments that's over there, and they merge into that Dunkin' Donuts, and there's numerous accidents over there. So if somebody could just reflect on the traffic studies. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Linda Costa. I live at 80 Browns Road, Nesconset. So
This is my property.
Please spell your last name.
Costa. And so the way this is drawn, I would be surrounded by parking lot. I mean, I don't know if there's going to be any kind of fencing. I'm just thinking about lights. What kind of lights are you going to need in a parking lot for a Dunkin' Donuts?
You're
for
going
this
to address the
facility?
board, not these gentlemen here. Okay.
I'm addressing
Thank you.
everybody.
Okay.
I
It's not personal.
No,
Okay.
I'm just
Okay.
concerned. I mean, that's not illustrated here that I can see. And I also want to address the fact that there is a bus stop there. There are children
Is that a
there.
school bus stop?
Yes, but 3 schools.
Because it could be a bus
right?
stop, but it's a school bus stop.
School bus stop, yes.
Is it on Browns Road?
Yes. Browns and Winners, right. Also, right now, the traffic on opening day of the park, that's one day, but there's constant traffic down there. So if you're gonna put a commercial building there, that traffic is gonna be just horrendous. And it is, I was there when that boy got killed, so it's, there's been accidents in front of my house, the trees in front of my house, my shrubs have been hit by cars. It's just, the traffic there right now is horrendous.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Stacy Berman. I live at 8 Premier Court. Stacy Berman, B-E-R-M-A-N. I live at 8 Premier Court in Wisconsin, in the subdivision adjacent to the property. I do have like a written thing I can leave with you guys, but I wanted to first address what Mr. Tamarco was saying about people living there that don't want a wall. We want the wall. We like the wall. We don't want more traffic. We don't mind having the barrier to reduce noise. But a lot of us here live there. Our backyards are on the highway, and we don't mind the wall. What we don't want is commercial traffic. The zone change is not consistent with our community. It is residential. I came from Queens. I moved out here to be in residential, to not be in commercial. Everything surrounding me is residential. My kids grew up in that park. We cross. We go from Winter Circle across to the park. I don't want to go across to the park going through driveways of traffic, whether it's an office building or a Dunkin' Donuts or anything like that. I want to be able to use that park and walk up the street and not have that. There are a tremendous amount, as everybody said, of commercial available property that doesn't need more. We don't need more business. We need more homes for the families that want to live there like we did. Every one of our homes are occupied. People are looking for those houses. I'm happy to sell mine when my kids go to college, and I'm hoping someone will want to buy it because Dunkin' Donuts isn't across the street. When my family chose this home, we did that for that reason, and I want future people to have that as well. There are school buses that do pick up and stop, all different elementary, middle school, high school. They stand out there, even high school, 6 o'clock in the morning. They're right on that corner. We don't need people going to work, getting their donuts and their coffee and making it worse. Buses come through that intersection, the bus stops, and it's bad enough the cars come across that intersection. They don't want to stop for the bus. They're certainly not going to want to stop for people going to get coffee. So I'm going to leave this. I give one to you, and I can give one with the board, and you can leave it in detail.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is John O'Connor. I live at 3 Winter Circle, which is in the subdivision across the street from the proposed property. So thank you for hearing our concerns, and I think the attendance here alone shows the concern that we have for this. When we moved in and we built this home 17 years ago, 16 and a half, 17 years ago, it was with the knowledge that residential would be around where we lived, everywhere around where we lived. And as the planning board, department said, east, west, north, and south is all residential, right? We have, and a lot of this will be repetitive, but we have bus stops across the street. We have a ball field there. A lot of what Mr. Tramarco said is absolutely true. 347 is very busy. Why would we make it worse, right? Why would we add to that, right? So we want to try to make it better or leave it as it is. So this would only make it worse. So we beg of you to reject this and protect the community, protect the citizens, protect the children of Smithtown, and protect our quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Patty O'Connell. I live at 101 Tiffany Court. The young man that was killed last year lived in our community and was right on that corner. So it really hits home when we see that there's going to be a possibility of some additional traffic going on. And just like people said, we do have children playing in the park there and walking around, and you have now a lot of people don't even know like our community is there or some of the residents are there. Now you're going to have some through traffic that's going to notice us, and crime could increase, who knows, and the drugs with the children. But we beg you not to do this. I mean, there's enough Dunkin' Donuts, there's enough places where you can put these office buildings and commercial institutions, but not in our neighborhood. We did buy there because it was residential, and we feel safe there the way that it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Pat Iannacone, I-A-N-A-C-O-N-I. I live at 91 Tiffany Court South in Wisconsin. So I just want to give a practical approach to the hearing, and I want to thank the board for having us here tonight and taking the time. I'm only in Smithtown for 2 years, so I'm a young resident here. But I can tell you, as a relatively new homeowner, my wife and I did a lot of due diligence before we purchased. We're in Country Point North. And we were a little concerned being close to 347. It's not a new road. It was there before we moved in, but we felt we were far enough away, and there's enough traffic on Browns Road, but it's livable. We have a fire department at the corner. We knew it was there before we purchased. There's a lot of car dealers, a lot of people on weekends driving new cars, but we knew that before we purchased. We came early in the morning, sat for 2 hours in our car with the windows down and listened to the traffic. I came in the middle of the day. I came at night. I came on the weekends. We saw the ball field being used. No one's complaining about the kids and listening to their voices in the morning. We knew it was there before we purchased. We spent a fair amount of money. We paid taxes, but we bought in good faith because the block is residential. And I had my attorney do search because there were some vacant lots, and they said everything is residential in the community, and we acquired the property. So I heard the applicant talk about walls. We're not here discussing walls. People that live there want the walls. We like them, so I think that's an irrelevant thing. Talked about the property being unique. I have to assume the property hasn't changed. It was unique when they acquired it. So I find that point to be irrelevant. What I do find very practical, one person wants to sell at a higher price because it's commercial at the expense of 150 residents that already acquired and already paid taxes in good faith. So I just feel the practicality of 150 homeowners, value of our homes going down and quality of life going down for the benefit of one person just doesn't seem fair in the town of Smithtown. That's been very welcoming and a wonderful community, and very proud that I live here. So I'd ask your consideration from a practical matter. And I think the gentleman on the board that stated, you know, I didn't buy on Southern Boulevard, I wouldn't have, okay? There's a Taco Bell, there's a gas station, you know, so, I mean, we did our due diligence. On our block and the blocks around, it's all residential, so there's a sense of pride when you come into your community. The community would change drastically. If you notice, there's 2 entrances on Browns Road that don't exist today, one for the parking and one for the Dunkin' Donuts. That's going to create a whole different traffic pattern and people coming and going. My kids are older. I do respect the school bus, but, you know, I mean, obviously people with young children, it affects them differently. But it will certainly change Browns Road and make it a commercial road. And we brought on a residential block. So I would ask your consideration in that. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, Maureen O'Connor, 3 Winter Circle, Wisconsin. First of all, thank you to the chairperson and the planning board for hearing us this evening. I know it's a late night, so I will try and keep my comments brief.
That is what we're here for.
I know. I hear your pain. First of all, I would really implore the town board to adopt that elusive draft comprehensive plan as soon as possible, because certainly one from 1961 is not meeting the needs of the community. However, Mr. Tremarco did bring up that the 1961 master plan is not appropriate for today's living, and we need to build something more consistent with present times and what's really happening today. And I would just like to comment that our community's present time and what's happening today are 2 very vibrant, thriving communities filled with children, professionals, stay-at-home moms, tons of kids, great community, the communities of Wynwood Oaks 2, Country Point, and our other resident neighbors on Browns Road. That's what's happening in Wisconsin on Browns Road today. I just want to, if I could just approach this map, I want to show you, because this is kind of getting lost in the sauce. We're talking about 347 and walls and commercial property, but as the previous speaker just noted, the second entrance to the Dunkin' Donuts, which would be right here. This is Browns Road. I would assume this is where you line up for the, that's 347. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, Browns Road. My home is right here on Winter Circle. I'm the second home in. I come up, I sit at this stop sign, and literally, this is what I would be facing. Browns Road in Winter Circle currently is the bus stop for Mills Pond Elementary, Great Hollow Middle School, and High School East. I think the last count, I think there were 16 children in all. That intersection has always been very busy. People fly across 347 and barely stop for the bus stop, as someone had mentioned. So this is just adding an inordinate amount of traffic and safety liabilities. But I just want to go back for a second to the basic issue here, and that is the rezoning to the WSI. Because we can say, oh, we're talking a lot about Dunkin' Donuts and drive-throughs and all, but the basic issue here is not to have this rezoned at all to WSI, or any kind of zoning for that matter. When I did a little research, WSI permits vehicle-related business uses, filling stations, repair garages, car dealerships, car washes, but most significantly, it does allow outdoor storage on that property. So worst-case scenario, this goes through, Dunkin' Donuts is there, it goes out of business in 3 years because there's 3 of them within a mile, and we can have a filling station there, or some other use that is WSI. I just was looking through a couple of other things in the master plan. And again, this goes back to quality of life issues for the residents in Wynwood Oaks, on Browns Road, and in Country Point, and the areas across the street. All four corners are residential. It is an odd piece of property. I love the idea of the town being able to take it and expand on the parkland. We don't need any extra. My house also abuts the parking lot that they added to take the overflow cars from Spafera Park. So we don't need any additional parking spaces in that area at all. And I just, again, would like for you to take into consideration, I too, like the previous gentleman, did my homework. Anybody who knows me, before we signed the contract for the house 17 years ago, I was in this very building looking at plans. I was across the street at the school district seeing where my kids were going to be going to school. It was R15 17 years ago. It should still maintain R15 now. So I thank the planning department for putting forth the recommendation against this, and I hope that you will vote to deny this request.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard?
My name is Peter Wong. I live at 1 Winter Circle, right across the street from the proposal. I just want to rebuttal something that they said about the wall. The reason why they put the wall is to increase traffic flow or make it a major highway. But I just went on to the Department of Transportation New York government site, and the reason why they put the wall up here is to reduce traffic flow, not to increase traffic flow, as they say, because they reduced the speed limit from 55 to 45, and the future plan is to put bike lanes on the north side, which is the side where they plan on developing, to make it more family-friendly and for the kids in the area. Yeah, it's called the, what is it called, the vision plan? That's the, it's not what they claim that it's going to be.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Knox, K-N-O-X. I live at 5 Michael Place in Wisconsin. And I really would like to point out that this is not just a problem for the folks who live on Browns or Winter Circle. Michael is on the other end of the park. But Wisconsin's had some interesting development lately. I really think that that corner should remain as it has been, unless the town seems to feel fit to expand and make Mr. Hornberger a really good offer. But this is not a mere NIMBY issue. This is about safety. If you're familiar with how the highway curves there, I've listened for 30 years from Michael Place to people accelerating as they cross 25, not realizing that they're going to see a light in 25 feet, and that's Browns Road. It gets really exciting when they get a green and they don't realize the curve continues and they get a red light at Gibbs. Very exciting. We need a driveway there like we would need a permanent ambulance to stay there to collect the people who are injured. I've lived there for 30 years. I've listened. I've watched what was supposed to be, I commuted on 347 back, this is how old I am, in 1970, out to Stony Brook. It was almost a bypass then. It is no longer a bypass. Rocky Point has a bypass. That wrongly became a business district. It's not supposed to be that way. It's so dangerous because we have all these driveways popping out. This would be appalling. I do feel for my distant neighbors over on Winters and Premier, but I don't want to hear any more ambulances. I would like to thank you. Thank you. I would like to thank you for not approving this project, and I sincerely hope you can convince the town board that safety should be paramount. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public wish to be heard? It is usually customary, or I've made it so that if the applicant has any remarks they would like to make in conclusion, this would be the appropriate time.
Well, I think we certainly heard from the neighbors tonight, and just for the neighbors' edification, the town has never offered to purchase the property, nor do I think they will. I guess that's always open to negotiation with Mr. Hornberger and the town. The only issue that I think we really have to consider is what makes more sense. Does it make common sense to put 4 houses there, which only will have 2 more houses that require a wall, whether that wall would be built or not, I don't know. Or in that small area, allow commercial use with controls by the town, building department, planning department, engineering, all of those things, which will probably be no different than any other area along Nesconset Highway, the bypass, that has commercial uses. It's really not an area that's conducive to residences. And this board obviously has the power to recommend whatever it wants, but we ask the board to give due consideration to the area. And what is common sense here? Is common sense to build 4 more houses with a giant wall, or to put a commercial use, an office building, and a Dunkin' Donuts? So thank you. If the board has any questions, we'd be happy to try and answer them.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, Mr. Flynn, is there any reason we're not awaiting any reports from any town departments, or there's no legalities that would prohibit the board from voting on this evening?
I'm not aware of any.
Okay. Before we consider the resolution before us, I just would like to elaborate as to what the procedure will be. Irregardless of what happens here this evening, the town board, our supervisor, and 4 council members will make the ultimate decision on this. The planning board's role in this function is primarily an advisory. We are citizens appointed by the town board to review such matters and report to the town board. So you will most likely be going through this in this possibly the same room or the senior citizen center with the supervisor and members of the town board. What date it is or when that will happen, I cannot say. You can check with the planning department or the town website, which would give you that type of information. If there be no further discussion, we have a resolution before us that would, if approved, make a recommendation against this proposal. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. I've been advised by counsel, who's always correct, that we're in the middle of a public hearing, and it's appropriate that we close the public hearing. So is there a motion to close the public hearing?
In the matter of 2017-01 Browns and 347 LLC, move that we close the hearing.
Is there a second?
I second it.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. The public hearing is closed. Now we have before us the resolution making our recommendation to the town board. Do I have a motion?
I didn't prepare one.
Well,
Okay.
I'll make it. In the matter of zone change petition number 2017-01 Browns and 347 LLC, I move that we adopt the resolution which calls for us recommending to the town board that this application be denied. Resolution as read in accordance with the recommendation of the planning department as heretofore read into the record.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. The resolution is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted, and this matter is closed before this board. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, board.
What's that?
You seconded it, right?
Yes.
I did too.
Ditto.
We got 2 seconds.
Okay.
Sometimes we have none, sometimes we have 2.
So we got the adoption and,
We have to adopt the minutes, and then we can go home.
We have, yeah, that's it.
that's it.
That's it. That wasn't as bad as I thought.
No.
They got them posing, they got that housing project right there.
I saw you at the ball fields a few years ago.
Yeah,
Take care.
that was teed up.
Oh, we still have to do this, right?
Yes.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
We're sending them home happy.
We'll do it quick.
Okay, we have... We should have adopted the minutes first, so... All right, we have one more matter before the board this evening, and that's the adoption of the April 5th, 2017 minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to adopt the minutes of April 5th, 2017.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The minutes are adopted. There being no further business before the board this evening.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The board stands adjourned till May 17th, at which time we'll be meeting at the Senior Citizen Center.
Oh, we will.